Hey everyone, this is Ernest with BIPOC, and today we are having a conversation with my friend here, Danny Organon from High End Graphics. Hey Danny, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Ernest?
I'm doing well. I'm really looking forward to us having this conversation because you and I have worked closely together for a little over a year now, and
Mhm.
you have been very influential in helping support some of the graphic design and other like back end systems to support the growth of my business. And just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us today a little bit about who you are and what you do. Uh, we're going to have a fun conversation about all things graphic design. So, Danny, please introduce yourself and let us know a little about you and your business.
Yeah, so my name's Danny Orgnon. Want to just say thanks. Thank you, Ernest. So yeah, my name is Danny Orgnon, and I'm the CEO of High End Graphics. So we specialize in all things graphic designs, basically the aesthetic layer of your business. So because design is very helpful and crucial for marketing, so we just take that approach, coming from kind of a marketing standpoint, and how the aesthetics will just help your business grow and look better.
Love it. Love it. So we're just going to jump right into it. Danny, I can't remember if I asked you this question before, but if I did, it was probably over a year ago. But how did you get started in the cannabis industry?
Oh, in the cannabis industry, I mean, I've always been a cannabis consumer from a very from when I was a teenager. I mean, I've always been cannabis enthusiast, but it's always been illegal, for a very long time. It just kind of in 2018 just kind of became legal-ish, and so well before before we got into becoming a design agency, I've been a designer for over 20 years. So right out of college, I immediately started working for major magazines like Rolling Stone magazine, Men's Journal magazine, Women's Health magazine. Um, I liked magazines. I just liked design, um, but it wasn't quite my thing. I always wanted to do my own T-shirt brand. So then I started getting into T-shirts, had my own brand for a while. I started printing for people. Um, it just wasn't something I loved, the printing aspect of it. So I just finally decided to go all in for design. And an emerging business that I was also enthusiastic about was cannabis and hemp and CBD. This was just starting to come out in 2018, and being an actual business. So we just kind of decided to go all in and just focus on the cannabis industry and helping these new brands with all their branding and marketing and stuff like that. And of course, the industry has its challenges as far as marketing goes. So I feel like, especially in cannabis, design can really help because of all these limitations that you have with Facebook and Google and all these different limitations. I just feel like there's an opportunity there for design to really help these brands with their marketing.
Absolutely. Well, you said a big word there, an important word. It's limitations. There's a lot of those
Right.
within the cannabis industry, especially in the marketing space. So, I'd love if you could just share a little bit about, some of the challenges that you have experienced, some of your clients have experienced with, trying to do
Sure.
marketing in the industry. But I'm also interested in you, telling us a little bit about some of the challenges that you have with working with businesses and educating them about graphic design. Go for it.
Sure. So yeah, I'll start with what you mentioned, just the limitations with cannabis brands, even CBD. Even that, which is federally legal, they're still having issues on platforms like Instagram, Facebook. Uh, the challenge there is they haven't been very clear on exactly what you can do, because you see all these other bigger brands, they somehow seem to be not following the same rules. It's a little tough. So I mean, that's one thing, is just the ambiguity of like what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So I know Facebook put out, if you Google it, they have their official statement on marijuana, but it's still not very clear. It just basically says you're not allowed to promote or sell it, or you're not allowed to put your address in there. There's just all these small things. So I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around, but what can I do? So I mean, that's one of the challenges. You can't pay for ads. You can't use these I wouldn't say traditional, but you can't use these modern advertising methods that most businesses can use, that give them a tremendous advantage. Because if you can get into Facebook ads or Google ads, things like that, you can target your audience. You could do these things that are very beneficial to growing your business, but not in the cannabis space, not in the CBD space. It's just very hard. So how we kind of solve that challenge is, one, with branding. I mean, you want to be memorable. You want your packaging to stand out on the shelves. But in order to capture attention, one solution, we've gone the route of, for example, we do strain artwork, which is something like, I guess what you can do on Instagram, Facebook, you can advocate for cannabis usage, you just can't promote it. So if you're kind of educating people with maybe infographics or using design so it's aesthetically pleasing but doesn't necessarily put it in a promo category, you can kind of attract eyes and get attention onto your brand that way. But also your brand, like, I could think of a few brands right now that a lot of us know, like Cookies. There's Easy. Some of these brands have tremendous, like, amazing art, and their brand just is, they've kind of taken this approach. When I say brand, I mean they've got merchandise, they've got, the whole experience of that brand. It's enveloping. They're capturing all your senses with the aesthetics of it, and that's what's helping them kind of remain at the top for that. Like, that's the perspective I take, is like they're just memorable. So I hope that answers your question. I can.
That no, that's perfect. I was smiling a little bit because you were saying like on Instagram and on some social channels you can advocate, but you can't promote. But I swear, I feel like it's hard to know where the line is there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I know I ran into a lot of challenges last year with posts getting pulled after 2 years of not running into that problem, and all of a sudden everything is getting pulled. But
Yeah.
also a good point about how you can really like help people with their aesthetics and finding creative ways to make your brand stick out. You mentioned a couple of brands. There's actually one out here in Colorado that I work closely with, Gentleman Quins, and they do something that's pretty cool. Like they actually their brand is one where you get these hand rolled blunts, and they're put inside of this different types of wooden boxes that sort of resembles like a cigar box. And it's pretty cool
Yeah.
because when you open it up, you're experiencing their brand like in so many different ways before
Yeah.
you even have the product. Like, you get hit with like the pretty view, that the way it's decorated. You open it up, it has like a little story about their product, and it's just pretty neat. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can differentiate.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, but with you, maybe can you tell us a little bit more about some of? I know you've been able to like work with some clients within the space. Um, Maybe can you tell us about some of the challenges that you've run into when it comes to educating people about what graphic design is and what it isn't? I feel like in a recent conversation that you and I had, we expressed some similar frustration with the fact that sometimes people think that I need design for one specific thing. Maybe it's like one campaign, one printed, piece, but where provide some clarity around that. Like what do you do that encompasses all things like graphic design?
Yeah, so yeah, I love this question because it's just something I come up against all the time. Brand owner, if you're the owner of a business, a lot of times, like, yes, many people can use Canva. It's a free software. It's fun. A lot of people, they want to do the art because it's fun, and you have access now with tools like Canva. Or I get this a lot. Like sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, my niece does my logos. She does all my art." Or somebody on the team, we have somebody, they do this. They said they can do it, so I'll let them do it. So I mean, yeah, like anybody can do it. It's something fun. I like to think all of us are artists inside. We all like it's a fun thing to do. However, there's also it's an art and a science. There's beyond just pretty things. It's the challenge is how do you communicate visually? So it's not just something that looks pretty. It's gotta draw people in. It's gotta be consistent. You've got to have this. There is a science to it. So I do have a chart that we created, a 4 pillar chart that goes over, each pillar of your business that can use design, and I can show that. But just in a nutshell, it's it's the I like to call it, this is the shortcut to building trust is visuals. It's the first touch point, experience point, the first sensory point of anyone is usually visual. It's like if somebody walked up to you on the street and they were dressed like, just dressed messy and they started approaching you, you'd start feeling a particular way. But if somebody was, whether they're of the opposite sex or not, like there's a certain attractiveness when somebody is put together, they're dressed well, and if they're approaching you, you're going to experience that differently than if they weren't put together in a certain way. So it's the same with a company or a brand. It's an entity that exists in the world, and it it creates an emotion in another person when they experience it. So if we look at it from that point of view, it builds trust, because if it's something, if it can build trust and it's communicating what you want to communicate. So as a brand, say, there's tons of cannabis brands, but there's also certain niches. There might be in Colorado a lot of the, there might be a lot of outdoorsy vibe sort of brand cannabis brands. So people that are into that brand communicates directly to them. So they'll have an affinity more immediately with that brand. They'll have a likingness. They'll feel like they know that brand. That brand is speaking directly to them. So they'll choose that brand over others because it resonates with them. And so on. There's, like, for example, I come from a streetwear background where, a lot of like skatewear, um, a lot of graffiti. I really like that kind of style. So brands like Steezy or Cookies kind of resonate with me. When I see that, I'm like, oh, this is a dope brand. I like that. I would like to consume their products because it'll make me feel a particular way. So this is missed among a lot of people. They don't think this deeply about how much the visual will impact you and kind of penetrate into you and just kind of draw you to it. It's the art of attraction. It's the art of trust. Like, so there's all these things. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it because I run a design agency, but this is how I view that. And the biggest brands on earth, their brand, I mean, it's the same word I'm saying. The biggest brands have the greatest branding. So Coca-Cola, when you think of Coca-Cola, you think of the color red, you think of that script font. When you think of McDonald's, you think of the arches, you think of yellow, you think of, this consistency across the brand makes you feel even more trust the more times you see it. If McDonald's wasn't consistent, if suddenly their logo was neon green, it'd be a little weird. You know, you kind of react differently. So I don't know. I tend to keep going because I'm passionate about this stuff. But yeah, I hope that like made
That's,
sense.
that's great. That's great, and I like the examples because it's true. You said one of the words that you said was consistency, and the consistency is something that also builds trust. It builds familiarity. If a lot of these top selling brands, that are well known globally, have spent so much time into marketing and research and development and customer psychology to really understand like what is going to attract someone to walk in the door to make a purchase, but then they want to make sure that that brand is also conveying positive feelings and emotions, and a lot of times that's done through that consistency. And it's actually interesting. We started working together a year ago because I think I happened to be on Instagram, and what caught me was that I noticed that you were, or High End Graphics must have, we would do posts, and you were consistently like liking the posts, and we hadn't even had an interaction, but we do a lot like on the back end with marketing, and after some time passed, it's like, they keep liking. So I felt like I was like, okay, I'm these folks over at High End Graphics are interested in what we have to say. But when we had some outreach, what I liked was that you came across as a very professional, and I could tell right away, as a marketer, someone that's worked in, branding before, there are some things that stood out to me. So like your brand identity attracted me, and I was like, let's have a conversation. And then, we started working together from there. You had mentioned that you have something that you created called the 4 pillars. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? If you have a graphic and you
Sure.
can share it, cool. If not, then feel free to just go over what that is and what that means.
Sure. So yeah, this platform's a little new to me. Let me see. Okay, I think I found the share screen. There we go. Okay, let me know once it pops
Yeah,
up.
there. Yep, I can see it. Go for it.
All good? Okay, cool. So yeah, this is our 4 pillar process, and it basically just goes over how you what areas of any business that you can apply design to, because that's another area that people come to us with. They might have an idea for one project, but not understand that branding is more than just the logo. It's an entire experience of your brand. It's all the touch points of your business. And by touch point, I mean it's like anything your target audience will come into contact with, whether visually, I mean even sound. I mean, we're not really a sound based company, but it's just anything they come into contact with, mostly visual. I mean, we live in the age of social media, right? We live in this age where things are just broadcast to us on a continual basis. So the more we can get on those channels, the more your brand is going to permeate, and then people will start having some recognition and start gravitating towards you. So those 4 pillars, I mean, we've got them in 2 sections: your core foundation, and then your consistent marketing. So this can be a process. It's best taken as a process, 1 through 4. But some companies we work with, they've already got their branding handled. They've already got pillar 1. They might need 3 and 4. So I'll just break them down 1 through 4. So the first pillar is branding. So those are the obvious things you could think of. Your logo, something not maybe not so obvious to brands, is a branding guide. So what is a branding guide? A branding guide is basically a document that we would put together, and it contains all the elements of your brand, the rules, what colors to use. Some brands have primary and secondary logos. One brand I can think of is Adidas. They have two logos. They've got the one that's kind of shaped like a leaf, and then they have another one with the three lines kind of, slanted a little bit. So I mean, I'm sure most can picture those logos. But yeah, that's an example of a primary and secondary logo. Um, Sometimes you may need this depending on the context and how you use it. But yeah, some brands can have dif- different logos for different reasons. Um, Style rules. So things like always use this logo in the italic, don't stretch it, things like that. It might seem obvious, but once you put these things in a document, let's say you hire multiple designers, that happens. Coca-Cola doesn't have just one design team working on their stuff. They go through multiple designers when they want to change or upgrade or be relevant, and evolve. They might go through different designers. So the importance of having a brand guide, if you're working with one designer, maybe they just don't work out for you, but now you've got this guide that you can hand off to another team and they don't miss a step. Your brand still communicates, still has that consistency, you know, got the
Yeah,
colors,
yeah,
patterns, voice. Yeah,
James,
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a great point that you bring up. I think a lot of times when I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are familiar with things like your mission statement or
Yep.
your vision statement, or even when you're doing like your business plan, it's like, okay, these are the things that are going to guide our decision making processes. And I think of your brand identity being that exact same thing. So great example, company that's been around for 50, 70, 100 years. um, Obviously, like, they've had a lot of people that have come through the doors and have worked in their creative department, but by knowing that, okay, this is how we operate, this is our brand identity, um, you don't lose any traction whenever there's like turnover or changes with like the personnel. It helps with that continuity. So
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, the last thing I have here, I mean, there's different things we could think of, but the next thing I have is an organizing board, which might be kind of weird coming from a design agency, but I don't think so. Like this is something I like to do for brands, is kind of understand how do you have your business structured, because that's also a design. That's how do you have the flow channels, who, not necessarily who reports to who, but like what functions are in your business, how does your business flow, and visualizing that on something that your whole company can look at, one thing, and agree that this is how this business flows and this is how this business is structured. So that's just something I maybe is a little unique to our agency, where we put some importance on that. But I think that would kind of just go in this first pillar as being a core foundation of your business. Like, design is so much more than just pretty things. It's how it's designed, it's how it functions, it's how it flows. So yeah, that's I'll just kind of end there on the first pillar. And I guess before I go to pillar two, do you have any comments, Ernest? Or
no, go for it, go to the next one. Yeah.
perfect. So yeah, so once you have your branding, now you can apply all of that to your product. So you've got your colorways, your patterns, how you want it to look. So now you can start designing how is, if you've got cannabis products, how's your labeling gonna look? How's the packaging? How's your bags? How is all of that, all your product going to be designed? And how's that going to look when it sits on a shelf, when you're selling it to somebody, that experience, that customer experience. So yeah, everything that has to do with your product. Um, once you've got your foundation, you got your branding, you got your product all set. Now this is onto the marketing side, the consistent marketing. This is basically just the outflow channels now. So now you're getting in customers' hands with 3 and 4. So sales materials. Sales is probably the most important. I would argue, like it's the most important part of your business. You got to generate revenue. Of course, you have to have a great product, that's a given. But now sales are what now you're starting to reach out and connect with people. If you have a sales team, if they're going door to door, however they do their sales, they're going to need materials. They're going to need to leave brochures. They're going to need to leave cards, flyers, maybe a menu, like a catalog. So all these things are important, and again, is going to help keep continuously building trust. You can't just sell a product just by having a product. You've got to now take the actions to convert that into sales. So this is just all the types of things that would have to do with your sales process. Once you've got that, now marketing is is great to do. So now you're blasting out. So things that a cannabis brand can do is social media design, banners and ads on your website, merchandise, swag. People wearing shirts walking down the street that have your company name but with a cool design. Now, mind you, like a lot of people might just think, oh, we'll just put a logo on our shirt and call it a day. But I really believe in putting something that people will resonate with besides just your logo. You want to, create. It's almost a campaign. The way I picture T-shirts and swag. But you're spreading out this message. You're putting out these channels, these points that people can come into your business. So yeah, merchandise, swag. Again, this is also helpful for cannabis businesses because where you can't promote cannabis on Instagram, you can promote merchandise. You can sell T-shirts, and clearly it's a given if they're coming in, like cookies. They've got a whole line of clothing. I think Jungle Boys is another one I can think of that's got really cool art, that they've got a whole line of T-shirts. So it's just other ways people could come in, and you're getting creative about that marketing. Email, email is something you can do as a cannabis brand. There are maybe some providers and platforms that are against cannabis and CBD, but there's plenty that are okay with it. Email is okay. Whereas social media, you can't promote. Email, you could promote whatever you want. So email is huge, I think, for cannabis and CBD. Also, mailers, physical mailers are something you can do as a cannabis brand. A lot of these old school channels that people tend to disregard because it's not as easy and it costs a little bit of money. But imagine your potential customer receiving something in their hand where nobody is trying to get in their hands because it costs too much money, but they can physically touch something. It's going to go so much further nowadays where everything's digital, by doing like direct mail design, sending a flyer, sending just even something small. Getting in their hands is powerful. So magazines is another idea for marketing channels. I mean, there's so much you can do in marketing. It's just kind of, this is where creativity comes in, and it's a lot of people just aren't doing these things because they just think it's too hard. They want to stick to certain channels that they want to stick to, but they just don't work for cannabis just because you just can't. But anyway, that's kind of sums up the 4 areas of pretty much any business that needs design. Like design is needed on these channels.
Yeah, this is great, Danny. I love that you have that you created this 4 pillar process, and just hearing you, talk through the flow, it's been pretty cool. As you know, seriously, like I feel like I have all these different ideas that are going. I'm like, yeah, to that last point, I could do some direct mailers. I could, send something out to like let people know about upcoming events and just try to reach them in ways that other folks likely aren't. So that was like a good point that you made. Um,
Thanks.
I do want to share just like one thing, just for folks who, may check out the video and um, but may not be familiar with what we were talking about when we were saying creating a brand identity or
Hmm.
creating a brand guide. Um, yeah, so here's an example of ours, something that we made back in 2020. So it was before we even came onto the market to let people know who we were as a business. We put in the work to create the brand book, and it goes over things like this, like what's our promise, what's our personality, the visual identity, the logo, and some of the things that you said that stood out were like in this paragraph. The brand is synonymous with reputation. It sums up the facts and emotions that come to the audience's mind when they read, hear, or experience, your business, your product, your service. It is who you are. So, and then, so I'm just going to scroll through here, but there's certain things like there's a specific way that the logo is presented, and there are certain ways that the logo is not supposed to be used. So this is all
Yeah,
important for building trust and consistency. And this is, if you visit our website, you see that we have these badges too. Um, but that's what you were speaking about, creating that identity. So that can be like the guiding, uh, sort of like that North Star to guide your visual and your marketing identity. So,
yeah.
um, cool. Yeah, I guess. Are there any? Oh, maybe one question that maybe one thing I'd like to know is there anything else that you'd like to share, including like how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So yeah, we have our website is highendgraphics.com. But if anybody wants to reach me directly, my email is Danny, DANNY at highendgraphics.com. Um, and yeah, like one, I guess if it's okay to promote how we kind of our service might be a little different than other agencies, and how we attempt to kind of solve any issues or uh, uh, any obstacles to kind of getting this done. Because I know one obstacle for sure: designers are expensive. You design is expensive. You want somebody to build a branding guide and kind of do all four pillars, it can cost a lot of money. So yeah, I guess with your permission, I'll just say how we kind of solve that problem. Is we charge, yeah, it's all right. All right, perfect. So yeah, we solve that problem for it being expensive and needing so many things. It sounds like a lot of things to do, and it is, and it's consistent, and it has to be kept up. It has to evolve. It has to continually communicate, because that's what it is. Marketing and design. This is continual communication and trust building, and trust happens over time. Yes, there can be an instant, your first impression, but most of the time you have to earn that trust over time. So yes, it can be very expensive. We solve this by offering our services. We call it unlimited design and illustration, and it's one flat rate. So you pay one flat monthly rate. It's only $5.97 a month, and we'll handle everything for you. We'll start with the first pillar if that's where we need to start, and we'll work through all four pillars and just keep that continually running. Just keep that engine running, keep that trust engine continually producing. And yes, this helps your marketing. You have to, there still needs to be outflow, but now you've got that aesthetic layer that's going to build trust, that's going to bring people towards you. They're going to essentially just fall in love with you. They're going to be attracted, and then that's that layer that's going to bring them in. And yeah, so like I said, we solve the issue of expense by just charging one flat fee, unlimited revisions. We don't charge, a lot of these designers that you want to see, like, oh, I have an edit, and they want to charge you. So just having one flat fee, or you have a team, not even just one designer. We have a team of people that if one designer isn't cutting it, there's multiple people working on this, so that we are guaranteed to get you something you love. And that's pretty much our guarantee. We guarantee we're going to make something you love, and it's unlimited revisions. Like I said, it's just economically friendly either when you're starting out, or if you have an established brand. It's still something you need to perpetually, continually make. So yeah, this can solve that challenge and obstacle.
Yeah, that's great, Danny. And I would say, also a point that you made about having that team. It's like having your fractional marketing agency on board, because
Mm-hmm.
um, I imagine like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the solopreneurs and the people who are, wearing multiple hats. If you might be being pulled a lot of different directions. If you're a plant touching business, maybe you're doing the cultivation, and you're also doing the hiring, and you're also doing the selling, and you're also trying to do the administrative. So, but you need to have some, marketing support you need that to like sort of increase the efficiency and the outputs of your business. Then, working with Danny's team could be a great solution for you. So you mentioned, okay, so your website is highendgraphics.com. And can you let us know one more time how people can reach you?
Yep. So yeah, again, yeah, highendgraphics.com. And you can reach me at Danny@highendgraphics.com. And
All
yeah,
right.
just mention if you're watching this, and yeah, just send me an email, mention where you got my email, and I could give you guys a discount too. We have a way to try us out, so that it's low risk. Usually we do either the first 7 days, or even just the first project we'll do at no cost, so you could test us out and make sure you like the flow, the communication, that the vibes are there. The only caveat is, like, you've got to have consistent needs. Um, if that's something you're looking for, that consistency, we'll do the first project so you could test this out. Because yeah, again, it could get expensive even trying designers out, because you're paying money, they give you something you don't like, and now you're out that money. So I mean, we have a way you could just give us a test, and this is helps us build a relationship and build that trust, so you've got a team you can count on.
Well, hey, Danny, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing uh, sharing your knowledge with graphic design, and giving, just letting people know about like what you can do, um, the ways that graphic design can support your business, and also providing them with a really cool approach that's economical, and has a guarantee like included. So I know that we will be doing some other conversations in the future. So I look forward to that. But hey, thanks again for joining today.
Yeah, thank you, Ernest. It's definitely an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll see you.
All right, see you later. Bye.